Star Maiden. Wappy the White Hawk lived in a deep forest where animals and birds were abundant. Each day he returned from the chase well rewarded, for he was one of the most skillful hunters of his tribe. No part of the forest was too dark for him to penetrate, and there was no track he could not follow. One day he went beyond any point he had visited before, through an open bit of forest which enabled him to see a great distance. Light breaking through showed that he was on the edge of a wide plain covered with grass. He walked here for some time without a path, then suddenly came to a ring worn down in the earth as if made by footsteps following a circle. What excited him was the fact that there was no path leading into the ring or away from it. He could find no trace of footsteps in any crushed leaf or broken twig. Wappy thought he would hide and watch to see if he could what had made the circle. Very soon he heard faint sounds of music. He looked up and saw a small something descending to earth. From a mere speck it grew bigger, and the music became stronger and sweeter. He beheld a basket in which rode 12 beautiful maidens. As soon as the basket touched the ground, the girls leaped out. They began to dance around the magic ring, striking a shining ball as they flitted past. Wappy gazed upon their graceful movements. He admired them all, but most of all the youngest. Unable to restrain his admiration, suddenly he rushed out of his hiding place and tried to seize her. But the sisters, quick as birds, as soon as they saw him, leaped into the basket and rose up into the sky. Wappy gazed till he could see them no more. "They are gone, and I shall not see them again," he sighed. Filled with the deep sadness, he returned to his lonely lodge. His mind could not rest. Hunting, his favorite sport, he could no longer enjoy, nor the companionship around the fire at night with the storytellers, nor the admiration of the girls of his tribe. The next day, Wappy returned to the prairie to wait near the ring. This time, in order to deceive the sisters, he assumed the form of a possum. The basket again floated down to the center of the magic ring, and once more he heard the sweetest music. The maidens leaped out and began their sportive dancing. They seemed to Wappy to be even more beautiful and graceful this time. In his disguise, Wappy crept slowly through the grass towards the ring. But the instant he appeared, ready to seize the youngest, the sisters sprang together into their basket. It rose, but when it was only a short distance off the ground, Wappy heard one of the older girls speak. "Perhaps," she said, "it came to show us how our game is played on earth." "Oh no," replied the youngest. "Quick, let us ascend." Once more the basket floated upward out of sight. Wappy returned to his own form and walked sorrowfully back to his lodge. The night seemed long, and back to the plain he went early the next day. How could he securely love that maiden? How could he secure that lovely maiden? While he pondered, he noticed an old stump of a tree nearby in which mice were running about. He brought the stump over near the ring. So small a creature would not cause alarm, he thought, and whereupon he turned himself into a mouse. The sisters floated down and took up their game. "But look," cried the youngest, "that stump was not here yesterday." Frightened, she ran to the basket. The others, however, only smiled and gathered around it. When they struck at it playfully, the mice ran out, Wappy among them. The girls killed all but one, which was pursued by the youngest sister. Just as she raised her stick to kill it, Wappy rose and clasped her in his arms. Her 11 sisters sprang quickly into their basket and rose up into the sky. Wappy displayed all his skills to please his bride and win her affection. As he wiped away her tears, he praised the way of life on earth. He was determined to make her forget her sisters. From the moment she entered his lodge with him, he was one of the happiest men. Winter and summer passed away, and the girl found she loved this young hunter. Their happiness was greater when a beautiful boy was born to them. But Wappy's wife was a daughter of one of the stars, and she longed to visit her old home. While Wappy was hunting, she managed to make a wicker basket secretly in the middle of the magic ring. When it was finished, she collected rarities, including special foods from Earth, to please her father. With these she went on. She went one day when Wapi was away, taking her little son with her into the charmed ring. As soon as they had climbed into the basket, she began to sing, and the basket rose. The wind carried her song to her husband's ear. He recognized her voice and ran at once to the prairie, but he could not reach the ring before his wife and child were ascending. He called and called after them, but they did not heed his appeals. Wapi could only watch the basket until it was a small speck and finally vanished in the sky. In utter grief, he lay down on the ground. Through a long winter and a long summer, Wapi bewailed his loss and could find no relief. He mourned for his wife and even more for his son. In the meantime, Wapi's wife had reached her home among the stars and almost forgot that she had left a husband on earth. The presence of her son reminded her, however, for as he grew up, he began to wish to visit his father. One day his grandfather, who was the star chief, said to his daughter, "Go take your son to see his father and ask him to come live with us. Tell him to bring with him one of each kind of bird and animal he kills in the chase." Accordingly, Wapi's wife took the boy and descended to earth. Wapi, who was never far from the enchanted circle, heard her voice as she came down from the sky. His heart beat with impatience as he saw her and his son, and he soon had them in his arms. His wife gave him her father's message, and Wapi began at once to hunt. Whole nights as well as days as he searched for every beautiful or curiously different bird and animal. He took only a tail, foot, or wing, enough to identify each. When all was ready, he went with his wife and child to the circle, and they floated up. Great joy greeted their arrival in the starry world. The star chief invited all his people to a feast. When they were together, he announced that each might take one of the earthly gifts, whichever was most admired. Some chose a foot, some a wing, some a tail, and some a claw. Those who selected a tail or claw became animals and ran off. The others assumed the form of birds and flew away. Wapi chose a white hawk's feather, and his wife and son followed his example. All three now became white hawks and spread their great wings. They descended with the other birds down to the earth, where they may still be found. That is the legend of the Star Maiden. White Hawk. The Legend of White Hawk. There was a Shawnee warrior named Wapi, or White Hawk, who lived in the forest alone, long, long ago. He liked animals and birds. He was tall and strong and one of the most well-known hunters of his tribe. He liked the forest, for it held all the spirit that lived within man. Wapi traveled through the forest finding new animals. One day he traveled farther than ever before. There beyond the forest he saw a clearing, and he walked into it. He found a perfect circle, studied the circle, and noticed many footprints. Footprints, however, did not leave the circle. There were none coming in and none going out. That night Wapi slept, heard music in the night, and descending from the sky a basket filled with beautiful sisters, 12 of them. They were daughters of the Star Chief, and the basket was their way of coming down and going up to the sky. He watched the basket touch the ground as the sisters got out and began to dance. They had a round magic ring, which one of them hit with a stick, making the sound of a drum. One caught his attention, the youngest daughter of the Star Chief. She had a round face that shone in happiness. Her smile, her eyes, her round cheeks reflected the joy she felt in her heart as she danced. He could not watch any longer. He ran out of the forest to the women, and they saw him. They jumped in the basket and were lifted out of his reach by the time he got there. He felt great remorse for scaring them. The music woke him as he lay waiting. He looked up and the basket came down to the circle. The women were cautious. He did not move. The women danced, laughing and beating the ring. Wapi thought of how he could get close to the young sister, so he changed into an opossum. He scurried to the edge of the forest, then turned with his tail towards the sisters and back to them. The sisters laughed. "Look at the opossum. He has come to show us a new game." The young sister called out, "No, let's get out of here. It is a trick." They climbed into the basket and disappeared. The next night he returned to his hiding place. On the way he came across an old stump. He kicked at it and out came a handful of mice. Carried the mice-filled stump to the sisters' dancing circle and turned into a mouse himself. The sisters descended and saw the stump. "Look, I don't remember that stump. What is it doing here?" Another went to the stump and started hitting at it as the mice ran for their lives. The sisters grabbed sticks and killed all the mice except one. The youngest sister approached it. Ready to hit the mouse with the stick, it changed into Walpy. He grabbed her and did not let go. The other sisters leapt into the basket and rose into the sky, leaving the youngest behind. Walpy took his woman home. He tried to make her happy. He missed that glow of joy she had on her face when she danced. Now she did not dance at all. In time, his woman gave birth to a boy. She asked if she could return to her father and show him the sun. Walpy felt for his woman, for sadness was constantly in her. He took her to the place of the circle in the clearing, let her get into the basket with the sun, and watched as she ascended into the sky. Walpy went back into the circle every night. His woman did not return. He felt a sadness enter into his spirit. He missed his woman and hurt with the pain of not seeing his son. As time went by, Walpy stopped going to the circle. He stayed home and sang of his son and of his woman. Walpy's woman played with her sisters up in the sky. She taught the boy her own father's ways, but when the son grew to resemble Walpy, she remembered her man. She went to her father and asked him if there was a way she could bring Walpy up to live with him. The Star Chief told her that if her man could bring her a piece of every animal that lived in the forest with him, he could live in the sky. Walpy's woman left her son with her sisters and came down in the basket. She went to Walpy and told him of his testing. Walpy spent 4 days gathering bits and pieces of the mammals, birds, and snakes that lived in the forest. On the night of the 4th day, he went to the circle. The basket was lowered. He was lifted to the Star Chief's home. There he saw his son. The Star Chief told all the people to pick a part of an animal, bird, or snake from the basket. Some chose a foot, a wing, some a tail, some a paw. Those who chose tails or paws were changed into animals or snakes and ran away. The others turned into birds and flew away. Walpy chose a white hawk's feather. His woman and son did the same. They spread their wings and descended with the other birds to the earth. Their families are still living in the forest today. I read these two similar stories because there are subtle differences, like the name of the Star Chief being shown, and them mentioning that they still live in the forest as animals. Now let's read Ariadne's Crown. Ariadne's Crown. The Shawnee Indians tell of a group of star maidens who came secretly down to the earth to perform a mystical dance within a magical circle drawn upon the great prairie. One day by chance the young hunters saw the 12 beautiful girls as they descended from their celestial chariot. He hid nearby and watched their strange fairy dance, fascinated not only by the grace of the movement, but also by the beauty of the dancers. On the following day, the youth White Hawk returned to the place and found that so, too, the dancers came again. Intrigued, White Hawk watched the ceremonies day after day as he found himself falling deeply in love with the fairest and youngest of the maidens. Knowing that the girls would be frightened away should he approach them, White Hawk used his supernatural powers to change his form into that of a field mouse. In that fashion, he crept through the long prairie until he was right within the magic circle. When his love danced near, White Hawk suddenly resumed his normal form and rose to seize her firmly in his arms. The others fled at once and sped away into the heavens, for the young maiden could not escape the lad's grasp, and the rest had no choice. Star Maiden looked at White Hawk and found him to be a handsome young man, and she returned his love. They were warmly welcomed in his village. The two were married and lived happily for many years. A son was born to them. After a period, Star Maiden experienced a longing for her former home. She ran away, taking the sun, and journeyed to her land above, to the village of white tents in the sky. But she was not happy there, for she truly loved White Hawk and could not think of living without him. And counseled the chiefs of the Star Kingdom, decided to invite White Hawk to make his home with them in the sky. Star Maiden's son, now grown to be a brave youth, was sent as a messenger to Earth, and he was able to persuade his father to return with him to Star Country. As a token for his new countrymen, White Hawk took with him gifts such as a feather from an eagle, a horn from a bison, cast-off skin from a rattlesnake. These were accepted with much ceremony and delight, for the Sky People had never seen these strange things. For himself and his wife and son, White Hawk took the feathers of a white falcon, and in that guise the three now live, not in the land nor in the heavens, but they are as free as the wind and can travel to either home. The dancers no longer come to Earth for their ritual dances, but they can be seen in the sky in the constellation Corona Borealis. There they dance on summer evenings, their circle not fully complete, since Star Maiden is no longer with her sisters. Many ancient cultures found this pattern in the heavens to suggest a crown, or perhaps a fairy circle. The Pawnees regarded as their circle of chiefs. Another American Indian tribe looked upon these stars as the opening of a cave where the great bear hibernated all winter. The Aboriginal Australians thought it to be a boomerang, while the classical Greek myth makes it the crown of Ariadne, daughter of Minos, king of Crete. The Star Maidens of the Shawnee may not always dance as a group, but for the individual stars lead separate lives, each travel in a different direction. They are not linked as a true star cluster. In 100,000 years or so, the proper motions of the stars will have scattered them to locations where they won't be able to assemble for their nightly dances. Corona Borealis is a small but very pretty constellation, situated between Bootes and Hercules. In August 10 p.m. sky, it is high overhead in the southwest. Interesting objects in the area include a number of fine double stars, although none of these is a member of the circlet's group of 7 or 8 stars. Eta is a double star with a separation of 1 arcsecond, with components and magnitudes 5.6 and 5.9 zeta, is also a nice double with stars that are greenish-white in color and separated by about 6 arcseconds. Their magnitudes are 5.1 and 6.0. TCRB is a curious star that has earned the nickname Blaze Star. It is a member of a special group of stars known as a recurrent nova. For most of the time, it is a 9th magnitude star, but in 1866, it suddenly brightened to 2nd magnitude, then faded so that within a week it was no longer visible to the naked eye. It regained its original brightness over a period of about 3 months. In 1946, it repeated this cycle, this time achieving the magnitude 3. At this frequency, look for it to light up again in the year 2026. Another variable star, but one that dims rather than brightens, is RCRB, lying within the bowl of the crown, normally a 6th magnitude star that can be viewed with binoculars. On occasion, it drops out of sight to magnitude 12. Unpredictably, it may recover promptly, or it may not return to normal for several years. The best explanation for this behavior involves the ejection of carbon clouds that obscure the light until the soot is swept away or reabsorbed. Stars of this class are supergiants, poor in hydrogen and transmuting their helium to carbon. That is the legend of Ariadne. So, I was looking into these legends, and I was thinking about the symbolism of the maidens coming down in the basket and dancing the ring into the field. And it instantly reminded me of crop circles, fairy rings, Nazca lines, sonoluminescence, cymatic frequency, And the idea that I have is that the earth itself, working along with the stars in the sky, are creating a pattern in the field. So there's something within the earth potentially that resonates with the stars, creating that frequency, which is why the pattern is impressed upon the field. So the plants themselves fall over because the vibration is coming from below and above simultaneously. This would match the symbolism of the 12 star maidens dancing down to the earth in a basket. The stars above that location, the resonance is within the earth, and there's 12 of them because there are 12 zodiacs. Next, I thought of the medicine wheel. This is the Ojibwe medicine wheel, representing the 4 cardinal directions. And they claim that walking these medicine wheels are healing. They'll set stones in a circle in different patterns, representing the animals from the legend, the creator at the center. These are in multiple different cultures, just like the crop circles, which are seen all over the world. Is it possible that after seeing this pattern arise in the field, naturally from the star, they walked out into the field and placed these stones in that circle? And this is why the circle within that specific location under that star has healing properties, because there's an actual resonant cymatic frequency rising up from the earth and down from the stars above into those who walk or dance the ring. This is a star circle, medicine circle, with different crystals representing different constellations. Representing constellations, yin and yang, 7 deadly sins, also working as a calendar. The Native American medicine wheel represents 4 races of man, of all the nation's people. Yellow for those people in Asia, white for Europe, black from Africa, red from America. The medicine wheel depicts many important values in Lakota society while maintaining the importance of interconnectedness between the people and nature. Lakota society live in the natural world instead of the European man's world, that they are something that they are not. After looking into the medicine wheel, I thought about the dream weaver. I can't remember the name of it. Basically, this is a medicine wheel. This is created in the same circle with beads in it. Is it representing the same pattern? And the legend of these claims that a Native American woman was cleaning out her teepee and saw a spider. She did not kill it, and it gave her the secret of making these dream catchers. That's what it's called, making a dream catcher. Now, I think this is representative of the spider weaves a web, In the legend of Ariadne, she carries a string through the Minotaur's lair as a way to find her way out. The cosmos have been depicted as a web. So the spider teaches her how to weave a web. The cosmos itself, the sky, teaches her how to weave this to make sure that she's having positive dreams. The reason that is because if this is constructed properly, it is going to change the frequency of the person that's around it, the person that's wearing it, the person that looks at this, meditates on it, and lives with this pattern and frequency. So it's not just one of these single things working, it's all of these things working together. So placing one of these inside of your bedchamber while you're sleeping is going to change the frequency of the person sleeping in there. This is one in a staff. So they clearly understood that carrying this pattern with them in their life, wearing it on them, was incredibly valuable. And once you see it everywhere. Now let's take a look at the crop circles. Now all of these crop circles might not be real. I'm sure some of them are hoaxes, but we're looking at an idea here, and I'm sure some of these are real and impossible to be made. So take a look at these, and they remind me of the legend because they're in the field is a pattern made, and there are no footsteps walking away from it or towards it. Is this a pattern created by the stars above and the earth below it? These are absolutely beautiful. Could these represent different zodiac houses? Are these the imprint of different stars upon the earth? They tell us that these are from UFOs. That's the biggest going theory, which if there are some kind of flying vehicles that are imprinting these as a message, that is very similar to the legend as well. So they claim a basket descended to the earth, and they danced this in the field while banging a golden ring. That sounds like light and sound frequency. Now let's take a look at the Nazca lines. These also match the legend, only visible from the sky above. These lines were walked by the natives, or so we're told. Did they walk these lines to preserve them because they knew in this location this symbol appeared one day and they wanted to preserve? Pretty sure that one's made by an artist. But anyways, trying to preserve these symbols because they know in that location is special. Is it a ley line? Something along that. Now let's take a look at sonoluminescence. Sonoluminescence is light created from sound due to sudden pressure. There's something called the pistol shrimp. And the pistol shrimp bangs its claws together so fast that it creates a sonic boom and light underwater. So this creature right here smashes its claw together, creates a rupture underwater, which bursts forwards, and the light kills its prey. This creature is absolutely incredible. So sonoluminescence reminds me of these crop circles and the legend as well, because look at these patterns. These are light and sound, and that in the legend they claim that light and sound are used by the 12 maidens dancing in the field to create the pattern. Even here they're compared next to each other, the sonoluminescent frequency and the pattern on the earth. So if the stars above are creating, if they are a sonoluminescent pattern, as the ancient legend of the waters above claim, then is there something happening within the earth which is sending a frequency up into the waters above, creating the light and the sound? Is this the music of the spheres? So in this, the earth would be the pistol shrimp, right? The earth is right here. It's the pistol shrimp. Something is happening to create the frequency, and the waters above are the star we are seeing in the sky. So let's take a look at all of these different patterns here. And if you look through a P900 at the stars, they look exactly like this. They hold these frequencies. They shimmer and shake as if they are in water. Then you have cymatic frequencies, which is usually seen in sand vibration, like a tonoscope or a board where you use a violin bow and a single string to create a resonant frequency in the sand on top of that plate, moves into these patterns. So there is a sound emanating which pushes the sand into formation along the plate. And you can take a look at these and compare them to liquid cymatics and light cymatics. And there's obvious comparisons between all of these sand plates. Very interesting. And you can see these with your own eyes. And you look at these and you will easily compare them to things like the chakras. Are these also sonoluminescence? Is this what chanting and saying the word Om generates the sound, which then generates the light frequency in the body? And as you move up, you turn each light on. Is this what's going on? So the next thing I thought about is Starforts. If we take a look at these Starforts, they look just like these cymatic frequencies, sonoluminescence, and these crop circles. They look very similar. So what I'm suggesting is, in the past, did these ancient peoples look out one day upon the field and see a pattern, or a crop circle formed in the grass? And they went down and they walked the circle. They walked the line. And they began to tune to the frequency of the pattern in the field because of the vibration in the earth and the star above. And did they then begin to live in the circle? And they would place their tents in the circle and preserve the line and live there in resonant frequency with that pattern. And then placing stones in the circle as the medicine wheel to preserve it if they moved to a new location. And as time went by, did they then build these into full cities? Did they build towers and full starforts? Is that what we are looking at today? Did they start out as crop circles and end up as cymatic frequency resonant generators? Did they build these buildings so that they could generate the star frequency stronger? And then you have the pyramids. And the ancient legends say that these are star generators. These are the famous Giza pyramids are linked up with Orion's belt. So are these star frequency generators for people who went within these? And I'm sure each star has a different use, meaning, pattern. So were these created after initially seeing the frequency upon the field? And are these frequencies we're seeing in crop circles today signs that we should be doing the same? Going out and sleeping in these crop circles, living in them, putting the patterns upon our bodies. And then the next step is to take a look at these ancient churches, because they have the frequency symbols right here built into the stained glass windows. So if these churches are cymatic resonant frequency generators, doesn't that match along perfectly with what we're saying? Take a look at these images and let me know what you think. Then we have the pipe organs. Are the pipe organs there to match the frequency? There's a possibility that these buildings were erected and on specific days of the year, different holidays, where the star is over that location, the star creates a resonant frequency within the building from below and plays the organ itself. So if that is what the building is made for, and the star and the earth play the organ, is this where this music came from? Because they would be sitting there writing down the music of the spheres, the song of God, the song of all creation, being played through the organ itself, which is healing the congregation, and following that, playing those songs themselves upon the organ. And you see this legend in things like Hunchback of Notre Dame or Phantom of the Opera, which Phantom of the Opera predates the popular one by a long time, where they claim there is a spirit or a phantom living in the basement of the building. When no one is in it, it plays the organ, and you can hear it playing at night. And they try to make it this scary, creepy thing. But what if they're telling us that these buildings once played themselves? Creating these frequencies. And they rebuilt the sound into stone. And they put these vibrations into visible format so that we could hear, touch, look at, and live within these frequencies. And India is one of the places that still holds this knowledge today, because they understand that the temples are aligned with the stars, and that only specific genders go into specific temples on certain days. There's ones for women, men, all kinds of different things. Things for healing, for meditation, for contacting different spirits. And they understood you go into these temples on these specific holy days. So a day like Christmas, where a star is specifically over this temple, or Easter, you go into the temple of Ishtar, where a star is over this location, creating the cymatic frequency, healing the people within, teaching them. Is this what these are built for? And in India, there are even some legends which tell us that some of these temples were built by the Creator himself. And we think about the creation story, that the earth is just a bunch of dirt and water. But in many legends, it claims that these structures were created out of stone by speaking the universe. So sound and light carved out these structures from the stone, and then the earth and the water was laid upon it, and it covered these things up so that they're just poking out of the earth. But underneath the entire earth grid are these structures, and we truly live in the temple of the Creator. Now let's take a look at the Sri Yantra. Sri Yantra is a meditative device. It's said to be one of the most important in Hindu culture and Buddhism, and it's represented on a mat in 2D, and it's represented in 3D. So you can see that these people understood that it starts as a two-dimensional object, which is then meant to be raised into a three-dimensional object. So did they use this information to build these? Did they look out and see the pattern in the field and then move forward to erect the structure? A yantra, literally machine or contraption, is a geometrical design mainly from the tantric traditions of the Indian religions. Yantras are used for the worship of deities in temples or at home, as an aid in meditation, used for the benefits given by their supposed occult powers based on Hindu astrology and tantric texts. They are also used for adornment of temple floors, due mainly to their aesthetic and symmetric qualities. Specific yantras are traditionally associated with specific deities and or certain types of energies used for accomplishment of certain tasks, vows that may be materialistic or spiritual in nature. It becomes a prime tool in certain sadhanas performed by the sadhaka, the spiritual seeker. Yantras hold great importance in Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. Representations of the yantra in India have been considered to date back to 11,000 to 10,000 years BCE. The Bogor stone, found in an upper Paleolithic context in the Sun River Valley, is considered the earliest example by G.R. Sharma, who was involved in the excavation of the stone, dated 25 to 20,000 BCE. The triangular stone, which includes triangular engravings on one side, was found daubed in ochre in what was considered a site related to worship. Worship of goddesses in that region was found to be practiced in a similar manner to the present day. Kinoyar, who was also involved in the excavation, considered it to be associated with Shakti. This triangular shape looks very much similar to Kali Yantra and Muladhara Chakra. Mantras, the Sanskrit syllables inscribed on yantras, are essentially thought forms, representing divinities or cosmic powers which exert their influence by means of sound vibrations. In Rigvedic Sanskrit, it means an instrument for restraining or fastening, a prop, support, or barrier, etymologically from the root yam, to sustain, support, and the tra suffix expressing instruments. The literal meaning is still evident in the medical terminology of sushruta, where the term refers to blunt surgical instruments such as tweezers or a vice. The meaning of mystical or occult diagram arises in the medieval period. I can't pronounce that. Usage and meaning. Yantras are usually associated with a particular deity and are used for specific benefits such as meditation, protection from harmful influence, development of particular powers, attraction of wealth or success. For instance, the Savali Yantra, used mainly in Southeastern Asian Buddhism, is used for the attraction of wealth and good luck. They are often used in daily ritual worship at home or in temples and sometimes worn as a talisman. As an aid to meditation, meditative painting, yantras represent the deity that is the object of meditation. These yantras emanate from the central point, the bindu. The yantra typically has several geometric shapes radiating concentrically from the center, including triangles, circles, hexagons, octagons, and chakra or Sri Yantra, which represents the goddess in her form as Tripura Sundari. Sri Chakra also includes representative of Shiva and is designed to show the totality of creation and existence, along with the user's own unity with the cosmos. Yantras can be on a flat surface or three-dimensional. Yantras can be drawn or painted on paper, engraved on metal, or any flat surface. They tend to be smaller in size than the similar mandala and traditionally use less color than mandalas. Occult yantras are used as good luck charms to ward off evil, as preventative medicine, an exorcism, etc. By virtue of their magical power, when used as a talisman, the yantra is seen to represent a deity who can be called at will by the user. They are traditionally consecrated and energized by a priest, including the use of mantras which are closely associated to the specific deity in yantra. Practitioners believe that a yantra that is not energized with mantra is lifeless. In Sri Lankan Buddhism, it is required to have the yantra of the deity with us. Once the deity has shown the acceptance of our prayer. 3 general types of yantras. Yantras that are used as foundation for ritual implements, such as lamps, vessels. These are typically simple geometric shapes upon which the implements are placed. Yantras used in regular worship, such as the Sri Yantra. These include geometric diagrams and energized with mantras to the deity, and sometimes include written mantras in the design. Yantras used in specific desire-oriented rites. These yantras are often made on birch bark or paper and can include special materials such as flowers, rice, paste, ashes. Structural elements and symbolism. A yantra comprises geometric shapes, images, and written mantra. Triangles and hexagrams are common, as are circles and lotuses of 4 to 1,000 petals. Saiva and Shakti yantras often feature the prongs of a trishula. Mantra. Yantras frequently include mantras written in Sanskrit. Use of colors in traditional yantra is entirely symbolic and not merely decorative or artistic. Each color is used to denote ideas and inner states of consciousness. White, red, black is one of the most significant color combinations representing 3 qualities or gunas of nature. Bindu. The central point of traditional yantras have a bindu or point, which represents the main deity associated with the yantra. The retinue of the deity is often represented in the geometric parts around the center. The bindu in a yantra may be represented by a dot or small circle, or may remain visible. It represents the point from which all of creation emanates. Sometimes, as in the case of the Linga Bhairavi yantra, the bindu may be presented in the form of a linga. Triangle. Most Hindu yantras include triangles. Downward pointing triangles represent the feminine aspect of God or Shakti, while upward pointing triangles represent God's masculine aspect, as in Shiva. Hexagram. Hexagrams, as shown in yantras, are 2 equilateral triangles intertwined, representing the union of male and female aspects of divinity or Shiva and Shakti. Lotus. Mandalas and yantras both frequently include lotus petals, which represent purity and transcendence. 8-petal lotuses are common, but lotuses in yantras can include 2, 4, 8, 10, 12, 16, 24, 32, 100, 1,000, or more petals. There's also yantra tattooing. They place them on themselves for protection, charisma, sacred ritual, power. So there it is. That's basically it. Let me know what you think about all of this information. Is it connected? Are there other things that hold these 2 and 3-dimensional symbols within them around the world that you can think of? I'd like to see other examples. And finally, I would suggest take a look at Star in a Jar. If you'd like to see the sonoluminescence in action, you can find it in a simple Google search or a YouTube search. You can find this channel. And watch him go through the experiment, creating sonoluminescence in a bell jar underwater. But that's it. Thank you for listening.